Hello, hello. Today is the weekend going into um, Monday, October 27th. So, this is the weekend prep going into next week. So, just kind of want to walk through a few things here and just kind of see how things look. But one thing that I like to do is just check across Grok, GPT, and Claude. And just kind of compare what the AI scanning social media and the news and stuff, like what's the sentiment that they read from everything that's out there in the last week. And so just kind of comparing the three models. I have a paid plan on all three models. And looks like for the NQ, uh, Grok and GPT are cautiously bullish, neutral to bullish, cautiously bullish, and in Claude is bullish. So that's interesting. ES, more bullish. We have two, Grok and Cloud agreeing that we're bullish, and GPT is little bit neutral, and gold, a little bit more bearish or neutral. So I think that's just kind of interesting going into next week, and it just feels like, given that we have rate cuts next week expected, we got a bunch of earnings in the tech sector. Maybe there's more catalyst for us to go up, and so that's maybe what's reflecting here with NQ and ES being more risk on and people putting money there. And so I just thought that was interesting. So we'll just kind of take that with a grain of salt going into next week. As far as what's coming up, so big things coming up for next week. So we got some U.S. Consumer confidence here. So this will be on Tuesday. So that'll be good. Then we got the rate statements and decision on Wednesday. So that's exciting. And we have Meta earnings, Google earnings. I think also Apple's in here somewhere. Yeah, Apple earnings as well on Thursday. So that'll be big. I think going into Wednesday, Thursday is going to be super exciting. Um, I mean, Wednesday, Thursday should be super exciting. Going into it, maybe we'll kind of grind in either direction. So that'll be kind of interesting just to keep an eye on. And again, government's still shut down. I think there's the tariff deadline with China is still coming. I haven't seen anything new on that yet, but I need to do a little bit more investigation. So that those are kind of wild cards still. But even that aside, I think we have the rate decision coming. I think we're all expecting a rate cut. When it happens, um, everything should be fine. If it doesn't happen, obviously it's very bad. But I think if it does happen, then we probably continue upward. If tech earnings are good, you know, maybe I don't know if we continue upward if tech earnings are good. Maybe it's a good way for people to take their profits and say, okay, let's let things shake out for the rest of the year. That's also a possibility in my mind. But there's a lot of good earnings that will impact both the SPY and the NQ. Oh, Amazon as well. Yeah. So, I mean, some big names reporting. So I think next week is going to be pretty good for a lot of opportunity. And I think you just have to kind of be open to it, right? So next week I think will be pretty active, which I'm looking forward to. UNH I think is interesting, and so that is, yeah. So I think this week probably one of the last weeks to be on point, and so we'll just see how things go. And yeah, for the earnings, other than what I mentioned, I don't know that there will be more that I'm paying attention to. I mean, Visa, definitely looking at that. UNH I already said. Ooh, Royal Caribbean. Yeah, so tech names. So Wednesday, Thursday will be pretty big, and we'll just kind of see how things go there. When it comes to how things were looking on the options flow, so this was interesting for me, and so I'm putting my watch list, which is gold, SPY, and NQ together, and I'm looking for all the options purchased last week, and let's hide expired contracts, so any zero DTE situations. But everything that's expired, that's not expired or that's open and expires in the next week. So overall, it's bearish, which is interesting, right? So that's kind of interesting for me, but barely bearish. When you look at the Qs, we're still bearish, right? You look at SPY, bearish. And you look at gold, gold is bullish, which is complete opposite of what the AIs are saying. And so, like the flows for people who purchase options this past week, which will expire in the next week, um, they're all bearish and bullish for gold, which is the opposite of this. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I think if we maybe expand this to 2 weeks, just out of curiosity, gold stays, all three are still bearish, right? Um, so there's probably something there, right? When you scan social media and the news, equities is bullish, gold is bearish. But then when you look at the bets people have made last week, that are still open, that expire in the next 2 weeks, largely it's bearish with gold being really bullish. So that's something I'm going to kind of reconcile and just kind of see what's happening on social media and all that. But I think that's just an interesting insight to kind of pay attention to. When I look at what's happening with the dark pools, for SPY, this was interesting. Okay, so on Friday, we had 4.1 billion transacted at the 671.65, which is pretty big, then nearly 3 billion at the 676, which kind of coincides with that launch off area and kind of near where we closed on Friday. And so if we look at where that sits here on the ES itself, right? Like there was a launch off, so this is a kind of pre-market launch off, and then kind of where we closed. And so we'll be definitely watching these two levels on the ES going into next week. Do we can we break above this and hold? Do we stay below that? And if we get below this, what does that mean? So we'll definitely be watching that. There was similar dark pool printed on the Qs, but not as big. It was only like 600 million, I think. So it wasn't too terrible. And then on the gold, there was a little, like maybe 10 million, 20 million around this area. And so we'll just kind of see how price reacts there. So I'll be watching those as dark pools and just as interesting levels to see how price behaves when it gets there. And so that's kind of what things look like there. As far as how the indexes and everything looks like we closed. So for Q's new highs, ES new highs, Russell no new highs, but we closed green. Dow new highs. So I think maybe there's a rotation back into Russell Monday, Tuesday to kind of make that break new highs. Because if we can do that, then it kind of just resets everything, right? And then we just kind of keep going potentially. So yeah, pretty strong. I mean, maybe there's a flush and all this stuff that might come next week, but I mean, price is up. We had this big down flush. We fought back, and we just kept going. And so that's true across the board. It feels like volatility. Nobody's scared. We're back to 16. So everybody feels hunky dory and everything's amazing. Dollar's kind of hanging out where it's been. Looks like treasury yields are picking back up slightly. And gold, again, gold is making higher lows, but hasn't made higher highs. So I think the longs are trying, but I'm still waiting for it to push back up into this 42.25 level where it broke down, and then just seeing what it does there, and seeing if it can continue to break above that or stall and fall over. So we'll see. But again, if it breaks lows and keeps going, then then you have to be open to that as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. When we look at the Megatech, so Apple has earnings next week, and we're holding it pretty good. I think Microsoft also has earnings, holding up pretty good. Amazon has earnings, getting up there, holding up. Nice little gap up there. Google has earnings, and it made an all-time high, which is amazing. Meta has earnings, holding it pretty good. Nvidia does not have earnings. They will have earnings in November, so that's something. But it finally kind of broke out of this consolidation, which is good, and it closed green. Tesla already had earnings, and we're just trying to fight up, and we're holding up pretty good. So there you go. And the Qs, wow, had a nice little gap up on the regular trading hours, so that's cool. So I mean, everything looks pretty strong. There you go. We got some earnings. I think it's like when you just look at the cues, right, on the regular trading hours, and you look at the monthly, it's just amazing. Like so strong, so strong. Um, and so I don't know how I don't think there's fighting that, you know. Like sure, there's all the reasons in the world to be bearish, I suppose, but I mean, yeah, you look at that, it's pretty strong. So just kind of keeping that eyes wide open approach, prices saying what it's saying, and you have to listen to what price says because price is always right, and it is right until it changes its mind. So there you go. So that is pretty cool. We'll look at the super spy here. So Broadcom holding up, nice little gap up there. Berkshire holding up. JP Morgan holding up. Do we have earnings? Yeah, we have earnings. Or did we have earnings? We already had earnings, yes. So it's holding up. It kind of broke all that support, swept that there. So we'll just see if that continues up. So I guess maybe this drop, I'm not sure what happened in LLY, but we're climbing back up and we got earnings. So we'll see what happens there. Visa has earnings holding up pretty good. Netflix, yep, we're going down. I think we knew that. Yep, we are going down. We broke that support. I mean, maybe we get to the 1,000, you know, 1054, maybe even 1,000, and then hanging out. So we'll see. Costco holding up. I have to go to Costco today. They're holding up pretty good. And SPY is the SPY. Yep, SPY again. We look at SPY. Let's look at the monthly. You want to be short the market. Cannot be. It's pretty amazing. Pretty strong. Pretty strong. Just it's convincingly strong. Um, so there you go. So we'll just see. I mean, maybe we flush, close the gap, and then we decide what's happening. So I mean, there's like short term shorts for sure that could be open to. But when you zoom out, I mean, yeah, it's one of these things. It's just even on the daily, it's not like it's parabolic or anything. We're just kind of going. Um, so yeah, we'll just see how that goes. It's pretty interesting, the world that we live in, and I think maybe now it's like everybody's expecting, you know, what September, October is meant to be like the down months. It hasn't materialized yet. And then what we have November, we'll have rate cuts, and then there's probably another rate cut in December. Maybe they don't do the rate. If they don't do the rate cut in December, maybe then people start freaking out. Um, but then you have the whole Santa rally thing, and so maybe it's one of those things where this year close is really strong, and then maybe next year is where people start worrying. um, but then I think about like political climate, and Trump is like not joking about a third term, which is kind of, unconstitutional, I guess, and not legal currently. But I think maybe there's something in the background there where maybe we just continue driving all this up somehow with all the kind of business moves and taking stakes in different companies, and maybe we are just in this situation where we will continue going up because stuff is happening today that really historically hasn't happened, I think, when it comes to like how involved government is and companies and tech and investments and things like that, and trying to bring everything back home, and like all this tariff stuff and whatever. um so it's interesting. I don't, this is just me speculating. I don't really follow politics that closely and all that, but it's kind of my thought process. It's like part of me is like, we should go down sometime soon, but what if we do not? You know, um, like what if we do not, right? And like if we look at, COVID to here, this was 454 days, right? And then so here to here, we're only 195 days. So if you went 451 days and you just kind of followed that trajectory, and this is not me making predictions or anything, I'm just, like there's a long way to go when you think of like the world was ending with COVID back here, all the way up. World is ending with tariffs, you know, Like there's more like this bull run lasted like 400 500 days, right? So yeah, it's interesting. Like I'm just let's keep whatever that slope is. We'll just keep that slope. Why not? We'll keep that slope. Let's just say we kept that slope. I mean, so it's interesting, right? Like you kind of zoom out. So I feel like I don't know what's happening. I'm not making any predictions. I'm just kind of psyching myself out of trying to really look for that flash crash again this year, because maybe this already happened. Like I don't know that it's happening the rest of the year. I'm open to the shorts if it comes, but I'm just I think there's a lot of like looking at the options flow, right? Like we're bearish going into next couple of weeks with the rate cuts and everything because we're expecting something bad to happen. Um, but price is like, nah, it's shaking everything off. So yeah, and I think there's the presidency is probably very market sensitive. And I think we see that in like the tariff stance where it's like back and forth and all this stuff. Um, and then you have a lot of people who are invested in more companies now, I guess. And so, anyways, I'm rambling at this point, but I'm just kind of reflecting on what the end of the year could look like, and maybe not be so trying to pull, be so short biased, right? And just like don't fight it type of thing. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm a little bit rambly just because this is something I've been speculating in the background here for the last couple of weeks, and so we'll just see how we go. But I think going into next week, I'll do the pre-market prep and all that. But I think there's reason for us to keep going higher with earnings expectations and rate cut expectations, and then we just have to shake out how the price reacts once those things hit and how earnings look and all that stuff. So that's kind of my thoughts. I guess we'll see how we go. And thanks for hanging out. Thank you.